Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us this afternoon. My name is Karen Brownlee, and I am the Adult Program Coordinator at the North Suburban YMCA in Northbrook, Illinois. In that role, I bring a variety of programs to our community, including social networking opportunities, a caregiver support group, brain games, and the YMCA Education Series, which you are attending today. It is my pleasure to welcome you to the Power of Green, Going Green Nutritionally, brought to you by Anna Harris, personal trainer and Precision Nutrition Certified Nutrition Coach. Your parents told you to eat fruits and vegetables, but do you? Learning how eating fruit and vegetables can improve your health, your mind, and your planet. Plus, you'll learn ways to make your eating more environmentally friendly, from shopping locally to eating in season to storage solutions. The YMCA Education Series is free and open to the public, but as a nonprofit organization, we are always happy to receive donations from you. If you enjoyed today's program and would like to support the YMCA Education Series, please feel free to make a donation to our Y by either going to our website at www.nsymca.org or by emailing me at kbrownlee@nsymca.org. Again, thank you for joining us today, and a special thank you to Anna for your time and effort putting together today's presentation. Now I will let Anna talk to you about the power of going green.
Thank you so much for the introduction, Karen. I would like to dig a little bit more into what we're going to cover today. So first, we'll talk about how amazing it is to eat the rainbow in your fruits and vegetables and how it makes you feel and how it affects your immune system. We'll talk about the famous subject lately of gut and how produce and probiotics affect your digestive process. We'll talk about how you can stay full with fiber by eating more plants at a very low calorie expense. We'll talk about blue zones, areas where people live long and live healthy, and they're very plant-centered. We'll talk about their plant favorites. We'll talk about eating in season and eating local, which helps support the environment in addition to making you feel better. So, without further ado, let's start with the rainbow. Why do we eat colorful fruits and vegetables? Well, I'm going to ask you, how do you think you would feel if you were only eating white and brown foods? You know, you probably would be kind of blah. And that's one of the reasons why we eat colorful fruits and vegetables. And I will go a little bit deeper into why those colors are so important. So fruits and vegetables are very high in water content. So when they tell you you need to get your 8 cups of water a day, and it's a very average number, but the water doesn't have to come from the water you drink only. The water also comes from the grains you cook in water, and it comes primarily from your fruits and especially vegetables. Some vegetables are higher in water content than others, but it's a great way to stay hydrated, especially in the summer months when the weather gets hotter. Plants have a lot of fiber, which helps your digestive system. It keeps your digestion going smoothly. And fiber adds bulk, so you feel fuller without adding a lot of calories. So it's great for weight maintenance as well. They're low in fat. Fat is not even a subject when we talk about plants. And some of them are higher in sugar, but keep in mind that that sugar is sugar that's digested quickly because it's natural. It's not added sugar. It's not extra chemicals that are harder for your body to process. So keep that in mind, added sugar versus natural. They're alkaline producing. So we eat a lot of acidic foods. Protein is very acidic. We eat a lot of, in general, a lot of foods that produce acid, as opposed to alkaline pH balance. And ideal balance is 75% alkaline to 25% acid. And fruits and vegetables are a primary source of their alkaline producing. So they help balance your system. And that diet is very similar to Mediterranean diet. That's why they typically have fewer occurrences of colon cancer and other digestive problems, because they have that better alkaline balance. And also they avoid processed, added sugar foods, high carb foods, simple carb foods that are high in acidity. And also antioxidants are very, very high in green leaves, and we'll get to it a little later. But that is because of photosynthesis that's active in the leaves. So that helps your oxidation, and that helps your body keep your immune system strong. And so you know that fruits and vegetables are primary sources of minerals and vitamins and antioxidants. And the most important thing, I think, is that they add value to your body. And when I talk to my training and coaching clients, I never say, let's take something out, or let's stop eating this, cut that. I always try to add value. And fruits and vegetables are something that adds value. And as you add more of that, it's going to outcrowd the things that are less beneficial for your body. So you eat more, you get more energy, more water, more nutrients. You improve your digestion by eating fruits and vegetables. And we also know that the diets that are rich in plants reduce the risk of your cardiovascular disease, reduce cancer cases, and slow aging. And I do mention the portion size, which is 1 fist, but you can certainly eat more of fruits and vegetables. They're great for you. So eating the rainbow means getting a lot of colors, and those colors are very, very important. And again, I mentioned adding because I believe in more inclusion rather than deprivation, because getting more of that good stuff is going to push the stuff that's not as good a little further away, so you get more value and you feel better. So let's talk about all these colors and why they're important. So do you see the screen? I'm sorry, is this blocking? Let's see, where can I move it?
We can see the screen.
Okay, so the greens, you see some examples, right? In addition to spinach and collard greens and chard, the leafy kale greens. There are other greens, right? Broccoli, green beans, asparagus, green tea is also part of that. And I mentioned already that leaves are a primary storage of antioxidants because the oxygen helps in photosynthesis. So that oxygen is going to help your body. It's going to help support the cardiovascular system better. And vitamin K in a lot of leafy greens helps prevent bone loss, and it fights cardiovascular disease. Increased intake of greens by just 1 serving. So adding greens to just 1 meal per day lowers your risk of diabetes by 9%. So think about that, almost 10%, just 1 meal a day. And think about if you were eating it even more frequently, how beneficial that would be. And we eat a lot of, I mentioned already, white brown foods. We eat a lot of that. Like we eat 70 pounds of potatoes a year. And compared to that, we only eat a 1/4 pound of Brussels sprouts a year. So taste, yes, but think about how adding 4 servings of legumes a week, you can cut heart disease risk by 22% in a year. So that is tremendous. And you have to look for that fresh green color, because the bright color, the brighter the color, the more like juicy color, the more antioxidants and phytonutrients are in there. And phytonutrients are these extra compounds that help strengthen your immune system. They prevent a variety of cancers and prevent cardiovascular disease. And the greens have a number of them. They have lutein, they have flavonoids, a bunch of others I probably can't pronounce, but they're all incredible for your health. And plant foods contain thousands of natural chemicals. So those are the phytonutrients. I mentioned just a few, but there are thousands in them. And phyto, this word comes from Greek. Phyto means plant. So plant nutrients. And they help protect us from germs. They help protect us from different bugs, from different fungi, from different threats. And they say that there are over 25,000 phytonutrients that are counted today by scientists in plant foods. So that is a great amount, great variety of options for us to make our bodies healthier. How can you eat your greens? A couple of suggestions, in addition to eating them raw, you can add them to smoothies, you can add them to stir fry. It's a great way, especially for leafy greens, add more. You can add them to soup, you can add them to eggs. And green tea and black tea are a great source of those phytonutrients as well. All right, moving on to reds. The superpower of reds are vitamins A and C. And those vitamins are reducing the risk of prostate, cervical, and lung cancer. Vitamin A is very helpful for eye health, and vitamin C is great for boosting your immune system. They're high in electrolytes, minerals like potassium, magnesium, sodium. So that means they help balance your blood pressure, which means they protect you from heart disease. They also lower LDL cholesterol, bad cholesterol, and they keep your good cholesterol higher. Reds are really known for supporting joint tissue, and it's especially helpful for people with arthritis. And finally, they help regulate hormones. So more of those red foods help your hormone system to stay more in balance. One of the most famous reds is probably tomato, right? And that is the one that is high in the lycopene. And other red foods, cherries are a tremendous source of magnesium, which is why they say, if you're having trouble falling asleep, magnesium is always helpful. And cherries are a great natural source of that. Raspberries, pomegranates, cranberries, watermelon, other incredible reds. And tomato is probably the most popular red on this list. And the phytonutrients from tomatoes actually come to life a little bit more when it's cooked. So that's one thing about lycopene. So when you cook the tomato, when you cook the cherries, you get a little bit more of that lycopene. But there are other phytonutrients like grapefruit is high in ellagic acid. And then there are other phytonutrients in reds. Easy ways to add them to your meals. You can, in addition to just having them raw as a snack or in a salad, is adding to chili, to pasta sauce. Red cabbage is especially the bright kind of red cabbage is a great addition to stir fries and eggs and just making a slaw. That is very, again, the higher the color, the more concentrated those phytonutrients and vitamins are. Moving on to oranges. So the oranges, most of them you recognize probably during the fall because pumpkins, carrots, sweet potatoes, squash, and we'll talk about it later, but they are all in season here in the fall. So just like reds, the bioavailability of the vitamins, of the nutrients, especially phytonutrients, is improved when you cook the oranges. So just like, and an easy way to remember is heat. Those heat colors, red, orange, you want more, you get more of them when you cook them. Just like reds, they're high in vitamins A and C, which means they have those cardiovascular and cancer fighting benefits. They're protective of your eye health. And vitamin C helps support your immune system a little more. Ginger is also an orange, which you would think, how can it be orange? But it's that yellowish color that maintains those special phytonutrients that oranges have, the alpha carotene, beta carotene, hesperetin, and flavonols. And ginger is across the board in blue zones, one of the most popular ingredients. It's really well known for helping your digestive system, and it has tremendous antioxidant benefits. So fresh ginger in particular, but cooked even more so, because remember, bioavailability is better when you cook those oranges. You can snack on a lot of these oranges, and you can add them to pasta sauce. You can add them to baked goods. One common thing across the orange fruits and vegetables is that they're easy to disguise. So if I added some to the pasta sauce for my kids, they wouldn't even notice, but they would be getting the phytonutrients, right? All right, moving on to purples. That bright purple color comes from anthocyanins. That is one of the most famous phytonutrients because it has great benefits. It helps lower your blood pressure. It helps reduce the inflammation that contributes to cardiovascular disease, diabetes, arthritis, various autoimmune conditions. It helps lower your blood pressure. And anthocyanin compounds help fight H. pylori, which is the bacteria that promotes stomach ulcers and urinary tract infections. So getting that anthocyanin helps you protect yourself from that. Other phytonutrients in purples are resveratrol, especially in grapes, and hydrocinamic acid. So ways to eat them, you can add the berries to your oatmeal or smoothie, or top a yogurt with grapes or strawberries, blackberries, cranberries. You can grill or boil beets. Beets are also very high in nitric acid, so it helps lower your blood pressure. And wine is included as well. I know it's not technically a fruit or vegetables, but it's a product of, so it's included, and it's very high in anthocyanin. So purples, again, as with other colors, the brighter the color, the more concentrated those vitamins and phytonutrients are. But let's not forget the whites. The whites are also important. They benefit bones and blood circulation, and they have compounds that help lower cholesterol. They're high in potassium and selenium. And garlic and onion, as you know, are components in a lot of dishes. They're bases in a lot of dishes, and that's been like that for a long time. And probably because people have found out that they feel better when they eat those vegetables. Tea, again, green tea and black tea. I know they were in the greens, but they're also in the whites because they have both phytonutrients from greens and whites. So drink more tea. It's going to be really beneficial for you. And apples, you know, apple a day keeps the doctor away. That's true, because not only does it reduce the garlic breath, but it also adds that fiber benefit. It's very high in fiber. So those are the colors, and I wanted to highlight each of them so you can see how important those colors are, and the reason being having those extra phytonutrients that help support your immune system. So when you shop, start on the perimeter. The produce aisle is where you find the most nutritious foods. So start shopping around the perimeter of the store and use what's in season, because it's going to be fresher and usually cheaper. If you're looking for labels, you know, those little codes, typically if a label starts with 3 or 4, that means it's conventionally produced. If it starts with 8, it means it's genetically modified, which is probably something I wouldn't recommend. And then if it starts with 9, that means it's organic. But before we talk about organic, I want you to focus on eating closer to the source. So when you eat, focus on eating fresh or cook those fresh foods rather than getting something out of a package, because your body's going to absorb more vitamins, especially as you age, you're absorbing less. So the closer to the source, the better. So start with the fresh and try to avoid over processing, because that strips some of those vitamins. So is organic better? When it comes to the dirty dozen, those are the foods that have the highest amount of pesticides. And that list is put out by the Environmental Working Group. So that list is different every year. So if you want to find out what they are today, you have to look up, and this is the most current. But each year that list differs because, you know, the way agriculture works, sometimes there are more pesticides added to others, and they track, that environmental working group tracks it carefully, and they see when the amounts change, they update that list. So dirty dozen are the fruits and vegetables that have the highest amount of pesticide, which is why those are the ones that you want to try and eat organic. So strawberries are usually on the list. Bell peppers are usually on the list. Cherries and tomatoes are usually on the list. Other foods change as each year. On the right, you can see the clean 15. Those are the foods that have the least amount of pesticides, which means I wouldn't have to spend extra money, because organic usually costs more buying organic. So these foods are like avocados. You don't need to buy them organic. They have barely any pesticides. Onions, don't need to buy them organic. Kiwi, asparagus. So know what those clean 15 are, know what the dirty dozen are. When I go grocery shopping, I usually have the list, and I just focus on the dirty dozen. I don't worry about anything else. Everything else is not organic. And the reason why we want to avoid pesticides is because they can be very harmful. They've been shown to cause cancer, ADHD, hormone dysfunction, even Parkinson's. But if you don't want to spend the extra money, if not eating organic means you will eat more fruits and vegetables, that probably outweighs eating them organic. So focus on the dirty dozen, but the main focus is on eating fresh, eating those fruits and vegetables. So one of the most popular topics, at least last year, and probably will continue this year, is the gut. Everybody talks about the gut and how we can make the gut better. And that's why I want to talk about probiotics. If you translate, probiotics means before life. So these are the compounds that help beneficial, that create the beneficial bacteria. And we have over 50 types of bacteria that each provide 500 species or more. And there are billions of them in each of our bodies. And some say that our bacteria is like a whole organ. It's it's as big and as important as the liver. So keeping the gut healthy, keeping those bacteria healthy is very important. They're all unique. Each of us has a unique makeup of what bacteria we have, and probiotics help replenish supply of good bacteria. They help reduce IBS, they help reduce IBD and various inflammatory conditions. You can buy it commercially. You know, if you buy commercially, typically it's lactobacillus or bifidobacterium. And with supplements, they usually start at 3 to 5 billion. So I would say if you haven't used a supplement and you want to use it, start with that amount, and then gradually you can increase it to 10. But why do we need gut bacteria? They influence health, metabolism, digestion, support immune system. They help us synthesize vitamins, especially B and K, which are important for cell production. They improve digestion and they help absorption of nutrients. Sometimes people that don't have enough of healthy bacteria in their body struggle with the absorption of nutrients, and that affects your metabolism. It supports the gut bacteria support intestinal motility and function. So the more healthy balance of the beneficial bacteria you have, the better the digestion. And very importantly, they obstruct the growth of bad bacteria. So they're really those good little fighters, and there are lots of little fighters that each of us has. So I mentioned a supplement, but you can and I would definitely recommend getting the probiotics from fresh foods. So the difference, there are also prebiotics. So probiotics versus prebiotics, I wanted to highlight that. Probiotics, as I mentioned, are those good live bacteria that help promote your digestive health and prevent various inflammatory conditions. Prebiotics are the foods that promote the growth of health bacteria. So prebiotics feed those probiotics, right? So that's why they're before, right? So the best way to create probiotics is with fermentation. So fermentation creates good bacteria and helps disable anti-nutrients, helps fight those bad bacteria. And B12 is a very important byproduct of fermentation that most people don't get enough of. So that's where you can get it, with those fermented foods, with those probiotics. One important thing about probiotics is that they have to be cooled. Heating will destroy the bacteria. So that includes pasteurization. So examples of fermentation: sauerkraut, pickles, kimchi. Then there are yeast probiotics like wine and soy sauce and tempeh and miso. And then there are probiotics like yogurt. And then you can also, kefir, and you can also get it from supplements, as I mentioned. Now, when it comes to sauerkraut and pickles, anything that's fermented, especially if you're making it on your own or if you're buying it, you have to make sure that they're fermented and not just soaked in vinegar. So check that on the label, or when you do it, make sure that it's really fermented. It's not just soaked in vinegar, for maximum amount of probiotics. Some examples of probiotics: lactobacilli, bifidobacteria, and yeast. Those are the three large types. And going back to B12, just to explain why we need that, it helps our nerve and cell function, and it keeps your blood cells healthy, and it helps make DNA, which is the genetic material in all cells. Prebiotics keep probiotics alive. We actually don't digest prebiotics. When you eat those foods like banana, artichokes, onions, garlic, prebiotics are in very high amounts in fresh foods. When you eat those foods, yes, you digest the nutrients, but you don't digest the prebiotics. But you get them, and they feed your gut bacteria, healthy bacteria, and make them stronger. So the more prebiotics you get, the more probiotics you will produce. So they kind of go hand in hand. All right. So when we talk about calories, instead of labeling all of this, I probably should say this does not matter, right? Because the calories are minimal. Nobody talks about calories in vegetables because we all know a lot of the content in the vegetables and fruit is water content. A lot of it is fiber. Very low amount of that is fat or sugar. So fiber is king and fiber is queen. Fiber is everything. 60% of Americans say they have at least one gastrointestinal problem. Um, and that's according to the American Journal of Gastroenterology. So that's a very recent number. 60%, that's a very, very high amount. But the good news is that digestion responds to what and how you eat and drink very quickly. So making those nutritional changes can make you feel better and can reduce or eliminate those gastrointestinal problems. It also responds to physical activity, movement, what we do at the Y every day, movement helps your digestive system as well. It eliminates a lot of those gastrointestinal problems as well. Increasing fiber is the best thing you can do for your digestion because it reduces cholesterol, it helps regulate your blood sugar, it helps improve your gut bacteria, it reduces inflammation. And some people say that you feel bloated or you feel gassy when you add a lot of fiber. And the answer to that is you have to start gradually. So gradual increase of fiber is how you avoid or reduce gas and bloating from getting too much right away. So how much do you need? An average person gets 16 grams, but the recommended amount is 25 grams for women and 38 grams for men. If you're not getting enough, you increase it gradually, and gradually means just by 5 grams a week. So you can get the recommended daily amount with just 2 cups of fruit and 2.5 cups of vegetables. So eat those every day and you're covered. Here are some examples of great high fiber foods, and you might know already some of them. Broccoli, Brussels sprouts, black beans, lentils, pears, avocados. They're also in grains like pasta and barley, but I'm not going to cover those grains today because our focus is on fresh produce. But beans, a lot of cruciferous vegetables, avocados and pears are your go-to source, and raspberries and blackberries are your go-to source for fiber. Now, there are 2 types of fiber, soluble and insoluble. And soluble fiber is the one that is especially important because it lowers your cholesterol levels, because it forms this kind of, picture it as like a slow river, slow moving gel that is picking up all the gunk through the intestines, all the fat, cholesterol, bile salts, sugar, and as it moves, it picks it up and gets it out of your body. So in addition to improving gut health, and it helps regulate hormones, especially insulin. So getting more fiber helps stabilize your sugar, and it helps you prevent diabetes. So chickpeas, beans, peas, lentils are some of the great examples of being high in soluble fiber. And, we talked about prebiotics, feeding those good gut bugs, but those foods with prebiotics are especially important types of fiber because they reduce the inflammation in the GI tract. And we talked about some examples already: onions, leeks, asparagus, apples. So fiber is one item that's very common for people that tend to live to 100 and beyond, the blue zone areas. it's more than just food for them, right? They eat to 80% full. That's one of their most important principles in Okinawa, which is one of the Blue Zone favorites. They call it harahachibu. So you eat until you're almost full, and it's not the size of a plate. It's not 80% of your plate, but it's almost when you get to a feeling when you are comfortably full, but you still have room. You could still get down on the floor and do some yoga, right? So that's very helpful. Number two, most important principle for Blue Zone is eating plant-based diet. They're very, very heavy in plants. Most of their diet is plants. They drink wine. Again, remember those purple foods? Wine was on that list with resveratrol. They stay active and they have connections in the community, so that all helps. But talking more specifically about their foods, 95% of their diet is plant-based. 95%. That's a high number. They eat locally sourced fruits and vegetables and dairy and fish, and they get it from the community. So they know how it's raised, typically organically. It's in season, which means it's more affordable. You didn't pay to transport and package it. And they pickle what's left. So that fermentation, as you already know, helps create more probiotics. So they're plant-based and their focus is on beans, greens. They eat a lot of leafy greens, sweet potatoes, lots of fruits, nuts, and seeds. And they eat a variety of leafy greens. It's not just one lettuce, not just kale. It's spinach, it's beet greens, it's turnip tops, it's chard, it's collards, it's all kinds. They also consume a lot of olive oil, again, freshly produced, and that's known to lower bad cholesterol. And all the food they eat is minimally processed. They focus on fresh and whole, and they live to 100 years and beyond. So this is a great example to follow. And they eat meat just on occasion, a special occasion. Most of them are not vegetarian. They're just vegetarian focused, plant focused. Walter Willett of the Harvard School of Public Health said this. He said, meat is like radiation. We don't know the safe level, but you do know that vegetables and fruit bring value, and they make you feel better, and they help reduce inflammation, and they support you in many, many ways. And that is especially true for greens. Green leafy vegetables keep you sharp. They're great for your brain. Dr. Gupta, in his book Chasing Life, talked about a 12-year study of 13,000 women that lived to 100 and beyond. And those who ate the most leafy vegetables experienced the slowest cognitive decline. And in fact, a follow-up study in neurology said that people who consume 1 to 2 servings of leafy green vegetables each day experience fewer memory problems and cognitive decline than people who rarely ate leafy greens. If you want a number, their brains are about 11 years younger compared to those who consumed less. 11 years. And that's just from eating 1 to 2 servings of leafy greens a day. So we know that eating more leafy greens is a simple and effective way to reduce memory loss and keep your brain sharp. All right, finally, on the subject of eating in season, I'm very excited. Warm weather means the farmers market season is coming up, and eating in season, looking at March, I don't know if you can tell from the picture, but what's in season now? Asparagus, strawberries, cauliflower, grapefruit, carrots. So some of the root vegetables are still in season from the winter, while some fresher ones like strawberries, grapefruit, and pears, artichokes come up now. So there are tons of benefits of eating in season. What it does for you is seasonal fruits and vegetables are cheaper. They will cost less because there's less involved in transporting them and storing them and packaging them. So they will be cheaper. Eating in season also means you're eating as fresh as possible. The food is going to taste better when it's picked up at its prime. That was a tongue twister. So eating in season, you're going to taste more of that food and it's going to taste better. It's also safer because fewer hands touching your food in production and storage means there are lower chances of foodborne illness. It's also great for the environment because you are supporting those local farmers, local community, local economy. Food that's purchased at a standard grocery store can provide 3.5 cents for every dollar to the farmer. That's all they get. The rest of the money goes to processors, food processors, to food suppliers, to marketers. And the farmer just gets 3.5 cents of every dollar. And the food travels a lot. The average food item travels from 1,200 to 3,000 miles to get to you. A lot of food, you see we get food from South America, from Mexico, and sometimes that's all we get because we don't grow it in season. But that means there's a lot of cost in packaging it, transporting it, and there's little that your local economy gets. And there's a great example from the UK where they say that every calorie of lettuce that's imported to the UK from America's West, 127 calories of fuel are used. So that means flying over 2 pounds of California lettuce uses enough energy to keep a 100-watt light bulb glowing for 8 days. So that carbon footprint from shipping, storing food year-round is very substantial. And shopping in season cuts down on fossil fuels and cuts down on those expenses. You also save on waste and save money from store markups for storing and processing the food. And when you shop local, you know who grows your food. You can talk to them, especially at farmers market. You can talk to them, you can ask them about it, and you know that it's fresher. So this is a very intricate chart. If you're interested, send me an email and I'll be happy to share a bigger version. But it's a great seasonal cycle for fruits and vegetables, a great resource. So some of the on the left side, we got vegetables. Some of them are year-round. So these are things like beets and broccoli and potatoes. And then there are others that are more seasonal. So in winter, we get a lot of root vegetables like carrots and rutabaga, celery, turnips, leeks. In the fall, we get cauliflower and cabbage and squash and pumpkin, sweet potatoes. In the summer, eggplant, bell peppers, and okra. The only vegetable I don't like. In spring, we get artichokes, asparagus, cucumbers, snap peas. Spring is really high season for a lot of vegetables. If you look at fruits, again, there's some that are year-round, like passion fruit and citrus fruit. In the winter, you get dates and pineapple and kumquats. In the fall, you get cranberries and pomegranate and pears. Apples are high in season in the summer, as are grapes and tomatoes, which is technically considered a fruit. In spring, we get dewberries and just a variety of berries, plums, and cherries. So that kind of wraps up the presentation. I just wanted to mention that when I coach people for nutrition, number one thing they get is accountability. I'm always supportive of their goals. We go step by step. It's not a meal plan. It's not a prescription. I work with everybody based on habits, so you can be more self-empowered. And it could be done one-on-one or in small groups. Also at the Y, in addition to personal nutrition coaching, we have group programs like diabetes prevention, which Megan runs. So that wraps it up. And if you have any questions, I am happy to take some now. But you can also follow up with me by emailing me at harris1147@gmail.com.
And Anna, there's a couple of questions that were typed into the chat box.
Okay.
So one was when you were talking about the fruits and vegetables and the organic properties of them, whether or not you should buy organic. Someone said, I don't see bananas on the list. Does it matter if bananas are organic? It would seem that the peel would protect the fruit from pesticides.
Yes, and that's a great point. Typically, when we don't eat the skin, then you have lower chances of getting those pesticides. And that's kind of an easy rule of thumb. If you don't need the peel, then you don't really need to worry about organic. With bananas, most of you, I'm sure, don't eat the peel. So bananas are safe to buy non-organic. No need to spend more on organic.
And I have a question to add to that. When you wash your fruits and vegetables, do you just, mostly we just rinse them in water. Should we be washing them a little bit more thoroughly than just rinsing in water?
Well, you can also wash them with baking soda, but also not stripping all the bugs from washing could be beneficial for your gut bacteria.
Got it. Okay. And then another question is, could we get a copy of the presentation slides? Do you want people to email you if they'd like a copy of the slides? Would you be willing to share?
Yep.
Okay, great. So use Anna's email address there. Any good tips?
I'm keeping it on the screen and not going back to
Yeah, no, that's perfect. Someone asks, and this is a good one for me too, any good tips for cutting the sugar addiction?
I always believe in outcrowding rather than cutting. So what that means is adding more items that are better for you and similar in profile. So that means if you're craving something sweet, try different fruits. So eat that first. And if you want that piece of chocolate or whatever that sweet is going to be, have that after. But have more of the fruit, and hopefully that will be either enough, replace it, or slow you down to have more. And replacing with a similar profile is usually helpful. So if you are craving some chips, that's salt and crunch. So look for that in, celery for the crunch, or vegetables that are a little bit saltier when they're cooked.
Great, thank you, thank you. Another question, how do you suggest washing the dirty dozen? Should you use the baking soda?
I would say yes, but the idea of the dirty dozen is to try and buy them organic.
Organically, yeah.
So
Got it.
that's, if you want to splurge on anything, that is one. When I shop, I know that apples, tomatoes, strawberries, I think those are the only three that I always focus on. I always buy those organic. I spend a little extra because I know those are super high, especially apples and tomatoes. They're super high in pesticides. So that's one way to reduce the amount, and then you don't need to worry as much about washing.
Got it, got it. And And another question is, does only red wine have good properties?
That's a good question. Red wine, because red grapes, we talked about color. The more of that rich red color, the more of those phytonutrients. And so resveratrol is in red wine. The white wine also has some properties because of the green grapes, because of the greens, but they're muted. So it's not as high. Um, I can look into that more and be happy to follow up on that. But from what I know, red wine is the higher content.
And then this is a personal question from me. I drink red grape juice. I don't actually drink red wine, but I drink grape juice. Is that also high in resveratrol?
Yes, but it's processed. So the further from the source, the fewer those nutrients. So if you can have the red grapes, you probably get more of those nutrients than from
Sure, sure, got it. Okay, great. All right, here's another one. When you were talking about how probiotics from fermentation can help disable anti-nutrients, what does that mean? Can you explain that a little bit more?
um, probiotics fight those bad bacteria. So when I say disable anti-nutrients, that means that they push them out and they fight those bad bacteria more. So having the fermentation means that you will have more probiotics to fight the bad bacteria.
Got it. I hope that answers the question. If you still have more questions, you can keep typing in. The next one is, do you have a few more minutes,
Oh, sure.
Anna? Okay. My understanding is that one of the issues with non-organic foods is that the pesticides are in the soil and get into the food through the roots of the plant. So organic is a better choice. Can you comment on this?
Yes, they get through the roots. They also get through the skin. It kind of depends on how they're grown and what kind of vegetable it is. But the ones that are shown by the Environmental Protection Group to be lower in pesticides are safer to eat non-organic. Now, if we're given a choice, more organic foods means there's a closer attention to how food is grown, which means it's going to be safer for you. It's going to give more nutrients. But I think in the real world, buying everything organic is going to be very, very costly. And so to just be realistic, I think focusing on Dirty Dozen and buying those organic is a healthy approach.
Gotcha. Okay, great. Oh, and someone asks, why does asparagus make your urine smell?
I used to know that answer. It's because of those sulfurous components um, that cause that smell. Yeah.
Gotcha. And I've also heard that it doesn't happen in everyone, that certain people have a genetic makeup where they don't have that happen. So don't know if that's true or not. I don't know if you know the answer to that. Do you know?
It's true. Yes, I've heard
That's
that too, that some people respond more than others.
gotcha. All right. I think that's all the questions we have. If anyone has any more, you can type them in now, or you can unmute yourself and bring up your question. But Anna, thank you again so much. It's always so helpful. And people are typing in, well done, very helpful, thank you. I actually texted one of my clients one of your slides. I took a picture and texted it to her because she's very interested in brain health, and I wanted to help her understand a little bit more about leafy greens. So thank you. It's really good. Oh, it looks like we got one more. You gave vitamin B12 as an example of something that disables anti-nutrients. So I thought that anti-nutrient meant something other than bad bacteria. So she was saying, but what you're saying is basically anti-nutrient is bad bacteria.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, good. So hope that cleared that up. All right. I think let's see. Someone says corn is a problem as it is on the clean 15 list. Glyphosate is not one of the things that is tested. Do you know what that all means, Anna? That's over my head nutritionally.
Corn, let me go back to that. Yeah, corn is, do I have corn on the clean?
I think so, yeah. I can look at it.
Corn, sweet corn, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's, corn has been on the controversial list. So for now, it's on the clean 15, but I think check that the best resource is this environmental working group because it's a nonpartisan group. They don't really respond to any kind of political bias. So every year they change the list, and I've seen items changed on this clean 15. So make sure you check it every year. This is from, I'll be honest, this is from 2020. So 21 might be a different picture. So
Gotcha.
check again with the environmental working group to see if there's any update, because corn has been in the news for that. Yes.
Gotcha. Yes, yes. And someone mentioned that glyphosate is the weed killer commonly known as Roundup.
Right.
So, yeah, got it.
And it's always on the clean list.
Interesting.
It's
Okay.
always on the clean list.
Well, and you know, if you feel strongly about it, you can always reach out to them, and that's how they make changes very often.
I have reached out to them, but they get this, they don't actually do the testing themselves. And glyphosate is, though it's the #1 weed killer in the world, it is not one of the items that is tested for when they, so it's a real problem because it is, it's a, I mean, corn is full of it, and it's been known, now, you know, Monsanto is being sued because a lot of people have this non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and they're saying it's due to the glyphosate. So, it's a problem.
It's good to stop at the farmer's market, you know, in the summer when corn is in season. That's why it's good to get it at farmers markets, because you can ask them if they add anything, and that's probably the best way to get the corn without the Roundup, because that's probably how I would prefer my corn too.
All right, great. And thank you everybody for your thoughts and for pitching in and explaining things. And again, Anna, thank you so much. This was a lot of great information. Really appreciate that everyone came today. Thank you. And remember, you will be able to find this on the YMCA's website as well. And you've got Anna's email address, so you can reach out to her with specific questions. Again, thanks, Anna. Thanks everybody for joining us today. Have a great afternoon and hope to see you next time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks everybody. Bye-bye.